This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, Day of the Triffids, episodes 5 and 6.
They make me sick. They're like maggots or vultures. I was ready for that. But there's more and more all the time. They seem to know where we are. They turned towards us when they saw the lorries. Some even moved towards us.
They didn't see the lorries. They're plants. They can't see.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast about bespoke plant-decapitating weaponry. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I have a question for you, and that's what's real. The question is, there's a lot of blind people in this series.
Yes, correct.
And the blind people, they've established that they're having some real troubles getting around.
Yes, they're not adapting.
No one seems to have a problem dressing.
That is true. I think they're just all wearing the clothes they were wearing when they...
You think
but
so?
It was the middle of the night. Oh, yes. They should all be in their pajamas.
Yeah, I just think...
That one guy was.
The show's missing a turn there. That people should be wearing like just horribly
Crazy.
mismatched colors.
Neon
yeah.
blue pants and a weird turtleneck.
Yeah, how come that plotline hasn't been done?
That's a good plot line, actually.
Thank you.
That'd be a good cutaway. Just like
just someone wearing a polka dot shirt with striped pants. You're like, look at this guy. He clearly is blind.
his wig's on backwards.
Yes, wait, that's good.
All right, Jordan. This is our final podcast on
Yeah,
the
I'm
Day of
kind
the
of sad.
Triffids.
Are you sad we're wrapping up?
I enjoyed it. I do believe I could watch a expanded version of this.
I agree.
I think surprisingly, when I realized I'm like, oh, this is just a zombie movie, but with walking plants. Weirdly, walking plants really revitalizes it for me.
It does.
Their little slippy, slappy tongues.
It's all good.
This is one thing I'm always going to miss, and it's just because of the time period and probably the rating of the show and the ability of the puppeteers. But I would have loved to watch one of them eat a body.
Yeah, it's funny, and
Just
I mean,
like a snake, just
there's
choke
a bit of
it down.
a bit of a spoiler, but like we're never going to see it by the end.
No, it doesn't come. It doesn't.
But you're
come.
right. Like it should have had, because they're sort of immobile with their stalks. It'd been great if like they just the shot of like the feet sticking out.
Yeah,
of
the
mouth,
feet be like going down into the like flower
Yeah.
part. Wonderful idea.
Maybe in the 2009 version.
just choking down bodies. All right, Jordan. So before we get into it, I thought we should I'll have a little fun before we wrap this up.
I love fun.
So I think this is the first time I've ever done this because I realize it's the first time I've ever had to come up with a title for this segment.
Oh, okay.
This is why I know it's the first time I've ever do it. We're going to play a game of merge with, pollinate, or destroy.
Oh, I love it.
All right, Jordan. Are you ready? I've done 3 rounds for you. In your own manner, I've done a few rounds for you.
Thank you.
Here's the first round for you'll get merge with, pollinate, destroy. Those are your 3 options. Your first options are, in round 1, a Triffid, a sandworm, or the sublime pelnum from that giant goopy pile from Warlord Battle for the Galaxy.
Well, as the sublime what's its name?
The sublime pelnum.
Yeah.
Plenum.
Plenum. As it likes to do, I'm merging with it.
You're merging with that plenum.
Yeah, I'm merging with it. And who are my other 2?
You can either pollinate or destroy a Triffid or a sandworm.
I think I'm gonna pollinate a Triffid and I'm getting rid of the old sandworm. It's too much. It's too much to deal with. I don't want to have to learn how to ride it. It's too big. Makes a mess.
You know what, Jordan? I thought for sure you were gonna have so many objections to the idea of you fucking a Triffid, but you're on board.
I'm on it. Well, otherwise it's I mean, let's not even get started with that big poop monster.
All right, are you ready for the next round?
Yeah, this is good already.
For your options for merge with, pollinate, or destroy are the man pig bat or grandpa from Mockingbird Lane.
I didn't realize this was going to be like greatest hits of our previous episodes.
Well, I was trying to think of I'm like, there's not a lot of characters.
Yeah.
And I'm
not complaining.
What if a Triffid's there? I'm like, well, it's got to be all gross monsters then.
Yeah.
It's the man pig bat from Mockingbird Lane.
Yeah.
Robosaurus.
Oh, Robosaurus. I forgot about him.
Or Russell Thresh from Generation X.
Oh, that guy.
The creep who licked that child's face.
Oh, those are really good. I think I'm. Those are really good. I think. Oh, what am I gonna do? Who's my first one?
Man Pigbat.
Okay. Well,
Grandpa from. He's in that form though. He's not in Eddie Izzard form. He's in that gross form.
I think he's getting chucked. He was the
You're gonna destroy.
He's getting destroyed. Okay. Because I don't want to look at his gross pig face.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna merge with Probosaurus.
Great, I love it.
And then who's the last one?
You're gonna pollinate Russell Thresh.
Oh yeah, I am, and he's gonna be very animated.
His face is gonna be alive.
Yeah, that works out.
All right, and we're just gonna do the final round now.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is Day of the Triffids, it is unfair for us not to talk about the three characters who are in the show.
Okay.
So I give you Bill, I give you Joe, and I give you Coker.
Well, it's interesting. I have a feeling you're going to agree with me on this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think you are.
I don't know where I'd go, so I'm curious.
I would merge with
Coker,
yeah.
Okay.
I think he's the most.
You know what? I
think
you're correct. I think you are correct there.
I think I'm pollinating with Joe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Spoiler: I like her new haircut later. And unfortunately for Bill, I can't deal with him when he's falling downstairs and accidentally.
Remember when you used to defend him as a smart man?
Yeah, it's not that I think he's dumb. I just think he's no turtleneck guy.
I mean, Coker is clearly a far more competent human being.
Yes.
With empathy and mercy for all.
I mean, I feel bad for Bill because I think he's a hard character to be the everyman, which is I think what they're trying to do, and I think that's maybe where he falls flat a little bit. Yeah. And that's getting a little serious for this game, but regardless, he's getting killed.
Although I will say, Coker has some slip-ups this episode.
That's true. That's true. Well, that was fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it, yeah.
All right. Here's the IMDb summary for Part 5. Bill's quest to find Joe leads him into the country, where he finds the disease and the Triffids are wiping out humanity. And that was courtesy, of course, of Jay Sperlin.
Yeah, he nailed it that time. See, I can give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, you're coming around.
Yeah.
You thought he was a little long-winded at start, but now these one-sentence ones are on the money.
I can't speak to how he's like in real life. I'm assuming he's probably long-winded.
But as you get to know him, it's just like less and less.
Yeah. You're like, okay, all right there, whatever your name is. Do you think he looks like that plabum? What was that thing
a sublime plenum?
That's what I assume he looks like while he's typing his reviews on IMDb.
Man, you really are slagging on him, aren't you? What a rough trilogy for him. Trilogy of podcasts. All right, Jordan.
Yeah.
And, sorry. Jay, if you're out there, keep doing what you're doing. You be you.
Oh, that's nice, I guess.
I'm building him up now.
I'm building him up. Whatever.
He doesn't deserve this. All right, Jordan. What happened at the end of last episode? What was the cliffhanger?
The cliffhanger was footsteps. I mean, really, that's what it was.
Yeah.
He came to a hotel. Bill came to a hotel.
He was at the university, but
university. That's right. It was the university they were at before.
Yeah.
He sort of was looking for Joe, I guess, and then he hears footsteps. He's like, maybe it's Joe, but it ain't.
It's Coker.
And he's in his turtleneck.
It's Coker.
Hey, that actually might, that's his song. That might actually answer the question about clothing, because I don't think he's changed his turtleneck.
No, he's
a
sighted person.
I know, but maybe he just feels bad for all the blind people not being able to change their clothes.
He robbed a like big department store, but all he took was those turtlenecks.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what I'm wearing for the rest of my life.
It's a nice turtleneck.
Sure. I have no strong feelings.
No, anyways, I thought it was all right.
Coker basically fills Bill in. The disease has wiped out all of his blind parties.
Yeah. Unless I'm wrong, Luke, we never really learn what the disease is. But it's clearly very contagious.
Yeah, it's clearly very contagious. Though, I mean, I guess we don't have enough sighted characters to know if it kills the sighted, because there's just too many blind characters for it to happen to.
I assumed it would also go to...
I would assume as well.
It doesn't seem like... It's not affecting just the eyes.
Yeah, that's true. And now Coker agrees with the people who wanted to bail on London to begin with, and they should all get out of London. And I was just like, nice giving up, Coker. But thankfully for them, the people have abandoned. They've already left. They've gone to start their new civilization. I guess he didn't catch them all when he smoked out the building.
Yeah.
But on a chalkboard, they've left a message. Tinsham Manor in Tinsham Wilts.
Yeah.
Are those real words?
I don't know. It's very British.
They were written down on a chalkboard, and I was looking at them. I'm like, I don't know if those are. I think there's just a random assortment of letters.
I thought the same thing. I was like, we'll get there.
But then they start talking about Tinsham. I'm like, I guess that's a place.
Yeah, and what do we find there? It's some sort of. So they get in a truck and they
travel.
drive.
They travel across the country. They get to Tinsham Manor.
And what it seems to be is some sort of church. Is that how you would describe it?
They certainly arrive during Mass.
Yes.
It's a big manor. There seems to be a community of both the sighted and the blind. They have a in-house priest.
And this would, I think I'm safe to say, is going to be what is essentially our third sort of society that has been developed, or third group or third viewpoint of what the world should be.
I mean, the woman who runs it, she was part of the original group. And I guess what they've established here is a society, but it's more based on Christian values. They're still going to hold up some of these
mostly
previous society's values, because there are more blind people there. They seem to be taking more in. And she does mention that when they left, a splinter group split off from their group at Tinsham. And I think two of the dudes we saw who were like arguing for their way of life previously in the previous episode, they took off to, what did she say? They wanted to completely abolish morality as we know it.
I mean, she makes a point that the real sticking point for her and for the people that support her and want to be with her was that original group's idea of breeding, essentially.
Well, that's what, apparently their idea, they left because they felt that producing kids at all costs was the only method, like a couple of creeps.
Yeah, it is funny how quick that view changed of, hey guys, we got to start society. Oh, by the way, I need 3 wives. Then it's like, this is all about breeding.
Well, it's that joke from the end of Doctor Strangelove, where they're like going into underground bunkers. They're like, well,
right.
I guess we need a couple wives down there.
Right.
With this one's not played for jokes.
Yeah.
What's interesting here is like we kind of learned they've started the society. They're they're trying to help, but they're maybe not doing it as efficiently as possible. Mm-hmm. And Coker, as a man full of ideas,
he really mansplains it.
I wrote the same thing.
Yeah,
he mansplains the hell out of this woman leading this colony about what she's doing wrong. Mm-hmm. And would you believe it? She's not really receptive.
I know. I do like that they did that. That he comes in, he basically he's rather patronizing about how he should do things, and she's just like, yeah, get out.
Get the fuck out, I guess. Yeah. I guess you could just get the fuck out.
I actually thought that was a really well-written scene because it seemed like they were more conscious than you would assume someone would be writing this in 1981, that like you thought the thing was like, he's going to explain to her. She's like, you're right. I'm just a dumb woman. But she's like, no, go away then if you're so smart. And I thought that was really good.
That's true. So Coker's going to, because Bill hasn't found Joe here, maybe she's with this group of terrible sex rapists. Maybe she's somewhere else.
I don't know when it happened for Bill. But when did his main driving force and the main thing that he wants and desires is just Joe?
I mean, I think it was after his party of blind people got the disease and abandoned him, because he knew where she was, but he chose to stay with them. But once they kind of fell away from him, I guess his only goal at that point was get back with Joe.
Don't you feel maybe he's setting her up a little bit on too high?
I mean, I think what we've learned about Bill, I mean, he said at some point he's an orphan.
That's right, he did say that. That was his pickup
who's
line.
Not married. So what are you gonna do? Actually, I had a thought about that too after we recorded the episode, because he's like, I'm an orphan, I'm not married. That's what he told her as a way to be like, I don't have anyone else. Can I hang out with you? He had a father. We saw a flashback where him and his dad were hanging out in the backyard.
But I guess his dad died.
Are you an orphan if your dad dies as an adult? Are you an orphan?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah,
he's just a man who has a dead father. He's not an orphan.
Yeah, but orphan gets you in, Luke.
He's just like, I'm an orphan. My parents died last year.
He's like, okay, fine. Also, there's an apocalypse. I guess I'll be with you. But it just does seem funny that in a society where things are crumbling and factions are being set up and there's rampant violence and there's literally monsters trying to kill you, and his goal is not survival or to save people or to make a better society. It's, I gotta get with this lady because I might get laid.
I mean,
that's maybe not be entirely fair.
No, I think you're right. It is a bit funny. I'll give it the thing that's just like, it's his only connection really. Like he's had few connections.
That is fair.
But you're right. It just becomes his driving forward momentum. And no spoilers, but it pays off.
Yeah.
We now kind of get a montage of them driving to the post-apocalyptic roadside. We see them hand pumping gas. I didn't know you could do that. Like they're pumping a machine and gas into a thing.
It's the equivalent of sucking the gas and letting gravity take its toll.
Bill looks out into a field and he thinks he sees someone, but it's just a scarecrow. That was a weird shot.
He also very shortly gets to use one of those shotguns and blow a Triffid away.
Yeah, they stop at the Whitbread Country Inn, where they see there's a blind man waving a flag out the window trying to get their attention, and they pull over to see him, and the blind man runs out of the front of the hotel, and what we see is a giant Triffid tongue stick out and slap him in the face.
Yeah, as they do.
I laughed so hard. It just shot out of a bush and just smacked him right in the face.
Every time the Triffid attacks, it doesn't look like the threatening attack that they're hoping for, visually, but it's just fun.
It's great. It's just a slap in the face. It's like just watching someone get slapped in the face.
Yeah.
The blind man immediately dies. But
as happens.
But yes, Bill takes out his shotgun, and we get to see a Triffids' head shot clean off his body.
Yeah, he shoots it twice. Well, first he shoots it and like blows half it off, and then he shoots. It looked like, this is just for me, but it was like in the Sergio Leone Western where like you'd have like Clint Eastwood just shoot everyone's hat off. That's what it looked like, but it was the head of the Triffid. It was great.
It was really good. I think it's one of we've talked about it a bunch. The Triffids look great in it, but they look as good, if not better, when they're being like mangled.
I agree.
So cool being mangled.
Well, because in that first episode when he stabs it with a pitchfork, first or second episode, it all looks very fibrous and stuff. I was like, that looks great.
I don't know what it is. Maybe we're just so desensitized to like zombies and people being exploded into like piles of goo. Like watching something in a weird shape explode is so much fun.
It was very satisfying.
It's probably just we're desensitized to violence.
But what does he find when he's in this area?
I mean, what they kind of happens now is they stop. They didn't save this guy. Coker's lost all faith in their sort of mission. And it's kind of funny. Basically, Coker's saying, listen, there's nothing out here. Like what I found out here with you is everyone's gone. Everyone's dead. And I think I need to turn around and go back to Tinsham. And like, I think I maybe need to be less aggressive about my ideas and but I still want to help them. Maybe I need to go back and be less of a dick about it. Help them prepare for sort of surviving the long term.
Yeah, he's all about learning basic skills for survival, like farming and whatever they need to do. That's his goal, and that's what he thinks he can bring to a situation.
And he's going to leave Bill on his quest, and he's going to go back there.
Yeah.
But before he leaves, though, he's talking to Bill about all the crazy things that are happening. He's just like, Bill, man, have you seen them? Those Triffids, they turn when the cars drive by, and that one outside, it was clearly stalking the man inside. And it jumped out and got him. Like they clearly like have a mind, they have a brain. And Bill just gets so mad. He's like, no, they don't. They don't have brains. They're plants. They're not thinking.
It was, I think this is probably something that makes more sense in the book, that he's so unwilling to admit what is very clear to everyone else, because it's clear they have intelligence.
The evidence is so clear now. The fact that he's still stomping his feet
and
furiously.
And it doesn't make sense why, but that's how he feels.
That's Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very funny to me too. But anyway, they split off. They go on their own way. Bill continues his unending driving through the English countryside when he does meet someone new.
Yeah, he almost hits a kid and kills him with a car, but doesn't.
Susan.
Yep, Susie.
Is it Susie? I thought it was Susan.
Susie.
No.
I know Susie because it's my generic name for a woman if I don't know her name. So I was like, great, I'll remember this.
That's what you call someone whose name you don't know?
Yeah, it's like, Susie, whatever her name is,
I did like, as he stops, he nearly hits her and he gets to the car, and Susie yells to him, please come and see what happened to Tommy. Tommy's dead. Tommy's a small child who's dead on the ground.
Yeah.
Though, what's great here is there's a Triffid who has just killed him.
Okay, you might have to explain this to me.
Yeah.
So, Tommy's being killed.
There's a Triffid standing over his body.
So Bill's like, I'm going to take care of this. He pulls out...
Not a shotgun,
but what... I don't know what this is. It looked like something from like Star Trek. Is it? So it's some sort of weapon that he uses, and it looks like a laser shoots out and just chops it clean in half.
Okay.
What was it?
This is a thing he was making in that show flat 2 episodes ago.
Oh, I never would have tracked that.
It's the thing he was making, and the best I can describe it is essentially like it's got a big cylinder on one end and then like a launch pad off the front of it. And what he shoots out of it is essentially a throwing star.
What a weird thing to seed for one scene.
We never see it again.
Yeah. It's not like this is something he's working on and he realized because they're invulnerable and he now finally has a weapon that's going to kill them all and this is what he's going to use. It's just for one scene and it looks like a phaser.
Well, yeah, it shoot because they have to optically print the whole thing.
Yeah.
And this like throwing star, like I guess think of it like it's shooting out like a
Like a sharp discus.
Yeah, it's like a blade from your lawnmower or something. He's basically got a lawnmower that shoots.
Yeah, but it's like pew.
It shoots out and it slices the Triffids' head off in a very awkward VFX fashion. But it's also far less effective than the shotgun because you have to be so accurate with it.
Yeah.
And what I was reading the booklet that came with the DVDs. Apparently, all of the advertising for this entire show has him holding that gun. Like they really played up that gun.
Right.
One scene. It appears in one scene.
Yeah,
And it doesn't make any sense.
I can't believe that you realized it was the one from what he was working on the couch. It was such a non-scene.
It was just because when that happened on the couch, I just couldn't figure out what. In my mind, I'm like, is he building a weed whacker? Like,
Again, I thought he was
whittling
whittling something.
But so when I saw it again, I'm like, that's that thing he was making.
Oh, that's so weird.
And we've already established he has 12 shotguns in the back of that truck, but he's like, I'm finally going to try this thing out. Just once. He's like,
it wouldn't have been better if he'd had 2 shotguns in each hand. Just started shooting that way, like Rambo styles.
I mean, it is that camp value that we really could have added. But I will say what happens after he kind of defeats, he VFXally slices this thing's head off. It is probably, I would say, the most iconic shot of this series is there's this backlit shot. He's in silhouette with Susie, and they're like pounding across into the ground over.
It looked like a
Tommy's
shot
body.
from like Gone with the Wind or something.
Yeah. I think it fits. I really liked it, actually. I'm like if the show had a little more artistic flair like this, because this was clearly the director was like, I've got a great idea. It's actually gonna be quite nice and really establish kind of the loss of this world. And I actually quite like that one shot. But most of this is to set up. He met a little girl named Susie. She's bringing her dog Rufus along.
Yeah, a little black lab.
And they drive off, and Susie says to him, Mr. Beale. That's not what she says. She turns
No, that's exactly what she sounds like.
She turns and she says, thanks so much for bringing my dog along. He won't be no trouble. And Bill looks at her and says, he better not be. I was like, what the fuck, Bill? No. What the fuck?
And I have to say, I'm glad they didn't go into anything weird that he's just picking up this girl. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter.
We've established he's not a pedophile.
He's not. Yeah. I just at first I was like, oh, don't have anything creepy. Just anyways.
No, that's the nice part. Bill's a nice guy. Bill, despite the fact he yells at a small child for bringing her dog along, or not yells, but is a jerk about it.
Well, but they are going to get in a car.
They're going to drive off,
and I can't remember exactly how this happens. Maybe you'll see, but I think it's dark and is it dark or is it light when they see a light flash?
What's happening basically is Bill is trying to. He kind of knows the general area where that farm.
That's
that
right.
Those environmental freaks, as Joe put it.
yeah.
Have that self-sustaining farm where she thought they should go way, way back 2 episodes ago before they ended up on all their adventures. He's kind of driven to that area of the country, and he's found a tall vantage point above it. And at night, he and Susie sit in the truck and they flash their headlights, trying to basically get someone's attention.
Yeah.
They don't see anything. They go to bed. There's a lightning storm, some very bad post-effects lightning. They just like flash the screen.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. But in that lightning storm, they do see like a light finally flashing off in the distance, and they're like, let's go to the light.
Yeah, and there's like a longer scene than you would think of them like
just
driving around because they added in the scene of like, oh no, I'm lost. I went the wrong way, and turn around like, why would you even put that in the show?
As they're driving around looking for this light, at some point they pull up to this sign, and I wrote it down because I was just like, oh, I guess this is where they're going. Where is it? It's they drive up to the Pulborough chalk pits. I was like, oh, we're gonna see a society that lives in these chalk pits. But all that happens is he pulls up, he's like, oh, this is the wrong way, and he just backs up and drives away. I was just like,
I know.
What was that, like a wink and a nod to somebody?
I don't think it was. I think it's just a little bit of time wasting. But they finally find their
Joe.
Yeah, they like start making out right in front of the kid.
In the rain. It's pouring rain. The kid leans out the window. It's like, hey, you guys want to take that inside out of the rain? Or like the kid actually does lean out the window. It's like, are you guys stupid?
Yeah. And they kind of hard cut to sexily chilling by the fire. And she sort of
she kind of explains what's been going on.
Yeah, that they have two blind people they were with.
Her friends, the couple who owns the farm. She's pregnant. They're 2 weeks away from the baby coming. She's so happy to see Bill, and Bill's like, hey, this is great. We should go join the people at Tensham back at that mansion. I'm going to leave you guys here. I'm going to drive back, tell them, hey, get ready. As soon as that baby comes in 2 weeks, we're coming. We're coming back at Tensham. Get ready for us. Hard cut to the next morning. He pulls into Tensham.
Yeah.
Everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead. It's the disease.
The disease has run rampant. Triffids are everywhere.
Did they ever mention what the disease is called? Did they ever give it a name?
No, they never gave it a name.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Well, we should give it one. What do you think it should be called? Triffid AIDS?
No, we should definitely not be that.
It's Tades. Tades then.
Ay, 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 ay. All right, this is...
Tancer? We can cut that all
Oh,
out.
no. Your fans will love it.
Yeah, the fans.
Those
yeah.
Jorheads will love it.
Yeah.
The Jorheads. I just came up with that. So, they have no choice. They have to stay at the farm.
Bum, bum, bum. That's the cliffhanger?
This one is the only time they actually
Yeah.
don't really do a cliffhanger, and it kind of works better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I didn't really need to see footsteps to wonder what's coming next.
Yeah. And that's the end of that episode.
The show's a real Inhumans where they're just like, who's up in space? I don't know. Tune in next year.
Yeah. Well, it is funny, though. It's like, hey, it's footsteps. Who is it? Oh, it's a guy. Anything matter? Not really. Move on.
It's just Coker. Remember him?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the IMDb summary for part 6.
Do we tell them that the world was wonderfully clever but so very wicked it had to be destroyed? Or do we tell them it destroyed itself by accident?
We tell them the truth. We destroyed it. We created the Triffids, we know that.
We didn't create the comet.
Was it the comet?
6 years later, Bill and Joe consider the future of their farm as the Triffids grow in numbers and a paramilitary group arrives with unpleasant orders.
Okay,
That was courtesy of James Sperlin.
I was blown away that for the last episode, we
Said-
suddenly jumped 6 years ahead.
Spring, 6 years later.
Because, well, obviously we're going to go through this, but
They should have jumped 6 years later, so long ago.
yeah, the series should have started 6 years into it, and a lot of this would have made more sense. But even weirder is that the 6 years doesn't really connect to what has happened previously. It's not like they've seeded a bunch of stuff. Now you're going to see what
How
has
it pays
happened,
off.
how
Yeah.
it pays off.
No.
Or it's not like a jump back and forward and the things they're doing, you're seeing how it's going to result. It's just like, oh, by the way, we've given you everything you need to know now. All right, let's jump over all the boring stuff. It's like, but you guys wasted a lot of time on the boring stuff.
Yeah, none of the characters we really know or love. The people who ran off with the... I mean, that's not true. We stay with Bill and Joe, and Susie's now grown up. We get a great shot. It opens awesomely on shots of London, like
Yes.
overgrown with vines and kind of run down. Bill's come back from a scouting trip there,
But
and
he's hairier.
He's also overgrown with hair.
Yeah, he hasn't cut his hair. As everyone knows in Apocalypse, like you don't have time to shave and stuff.
got-
And his beard's gotten crazy.
Huge. His beard's huge. His hair's
Yeah.
super long. And the farm is now surrounded by a huge metal fence.
Mm-hmm.
It's keeping out 1,000 Triffids.
Yeah.
They have to call them every 10 days, and they count them, and there's 1,000 Triffids outside the farm.
Well, you know what? There's not much else to do in the farm except for count Triffids.
Fair enough. As I mentioned, Susie's all grown up.
Mm-hmm.
There are now 2 more kids on the farm.
Yeah.
Presumably, one for sure is the blind couples.
And then one is Bill and Joe's. That's what I think.
But they never say it.
No, I think they've implied it, though, the way that the one mother went to the one kid and Joe went to the other when they were going to bed and stuff. I think the implication is that it was their child.
Because there's a boy and a girl. Which
Yeah.
one did you think was Joe's?
I can't remember which one was which. I think it's the boy?
I would say here's what I say. Joe always goes to the boy,
Yeah.
but the boy calls him Uncle Bill.
Oh, that's just because... It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to go there.
Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
I don't want to know. We'll leave it there. Anyway, I just thought it was weird. I'm like, I couldn't tell if they actually had a kid or if these were the blind people's kids.
I just assumed, but you could be right. It could be the other family.
Yeah. Also, in this space of time, basically everything's falling apart. Like, London's been completely abandoned. Bill says he's seen signs at other raiding parties, but essentially the buildings are starting to collapse and they really can't go back there anymore. Sort of the scene is kind of to catch us up, and it sort of ends with them talking about just how many Triffids have gathered around the fence and how quickly they keep coming back. And they're just like, there's concern is voiced at this dinner table, and the scene ends with Bill saying, "I don't think it's a problem." Hard cut to the morning. The house is surrounded in Triffids.
Look, I've been defending Bill for a lot of times, but he might not be the brightest.
He's not a bright man.
Yeah,
he
but-
means well, but he's a
And
dumb man.
how did you think the scare? I thought was okay because what you basically get is Joe's in the kitchen, and have we mentioned she has grown her hair out? She no longer looks like Marky Post.
Yeah, her hair is now down past her butt.
Yeah, no one's been cutting their hair. So she's in the kitchen, seemingly, making tea
breakfast.
or making breakfast, and she hears something, and then she pulls back the blinds,
throws open those drapes,
and it's just Triffids, and it's a bit of a jump scare, and it like 70% works.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
I agree, and but the point being, they've broken through the fence. And
as Bill said, they never would.
Yeah, they're
the night before.
And then, but it cuts to even a better scene.
I know. The next jump cut is even better.
So what it is you cut to like just foggy smoke, and then you have Bill and Susie with flamethrowers.
And like the charred remains of Triffids everywhere.
And she's just like, we won.
I know. She just shouts, we won. And I'm just like, I would have loved to see that scene.
Yeah, I love in things like this, and I know why, because of budgetary concerns.
I mean, they couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. But like, that's the scene everyone wants. The dad and daughter just burning it all to the ground. Like, that's great.
I do agree, but I will say there was something amazing about that hard cut to just burnt corpses and then Susie saying, we won. I did think, I'm like, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it any more than you just stating that.
But so yeah, they've burned all the Triffids. That's the thing, and then we take a weird little sojourn to a beach date, but it's England, so the beach is just like rocky and unpleasant.
Just pebbles, shale, I think they call it. Bill takes Joe on a date. This is purely expositional. This date, it's purely here to get us not just caught up, but like fill in blanks.
But I love though that they've decided to go 6 years in the future. It's like, oh guys, we have to catch you up because we did 6 years. Like, you chose this. You chose to put us 6 years in the future.
They're not even exactly catching us up. Here's what basically happens there. They talk about how to deal with the Triffids getting past the fence, they've now electrified the fence.
That's right, yeah.
Bill mentions this is a temporary solution because they'll eventually run out of fuel. But Jo herself, she has a solution for this particular problem of running out of fuel, which was, do you remember what her solution was?
I don't know if I did write it down.
Jo's solution for them running out of fuel was just turn it on and off every few minutes.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Or every few days.
Yeah, she thinks that, like, basically randomly they'll turn the generator off and the Triffids seemingly won't know, and what is implied is that the Triffids are constantly testing the electrical fence to see if it's electrified.
But I don't see how it solves the problem of they're going to run out of fuel. It'll just last a little while. Like,
it lasts a little longer.
She states it like she solved the problem.
You're right.
I was just like, Jo, that's not solving
it. I think she's just thinking, it will say, we get an extra week out of it.
Anyway, it's not that important. And then they kind of go into... there's this moment where they're talking about the apocalypse in general, and they're like, what will we tell the kids about the apocalypse? And what did Jo think they should tell their children about the apocalypse? I have the quote here if you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that he says they should just say the truth, right?
Yes, and she says, we should tell them the world was wonderfully clever, but so very wicked it had to be destroyed.
She's very Old Testament.
I was just like, what the fuck? That's like not what happened. Like, this isn't a punishment from God.
I do like though that I don't know if that's easier to explain than what actually happened.
Yeah, it's just Triffids got loose and we all went blind.
Yeah. Well, but they do also talk about here that they do say it was comets they had seen, and then maybe the comets and the disease and the Triffids are all connected. They don't exactly say how, but they're like, maybe.
I mean, here's what it is they will now, apropos to nothing, pose 3 theories about what's happened. For the Triffids, I think they're right because I think we know enough about the Triffids.
Yeah.
Is that man created the Triffids and the Triffids were a bad creation. I mean, the Russians technically created them, but yes, it's man's fault for that. The blindness. What was their explanation for the blindness?
I think it was that it was a weapon that sprayed out further than they intended.
Yeah. Here's Bill's theory of how everyone went blind. He tells Jo, you know how the Earth is covered in satellites? She's like, yes. What if some of the satellites had weapons on them? Okay. And what if one of those weapons had a radiation on it that was used to blind only some people with radiation, and then there was an accident, and that satellite went crazy, and it blinded everyone? She's like, all right. And Jo's like, and Bill's like, I think that's what happened.
I like, though, that there's no way for them to confirm what their belief is.
It's just such a wild theory. You could have said anything.
What I think is important, though, is I think you see how this relationship is working. Bill says something kind of crazy, and he's very adamant about it. And Jo goes, yeah, that sounds right.
Sure. Why not?
And then she's like, I'm just going to go back to the farm. I don't care what this guy says.
Yeah, Bill, whatever makes you feel good. And then also, they have a final theory about the disease that's been killing everyone. It was probably created by the government, as far as they can tell.
Yeah.
I get the point of it. The point of it is to say, all that this happened to us was our own fault.
Yes.
But they have practically zero evidence to back up any of these theories they're telling each other.
It's not handled in the tightest way possible. Like, they're just like, all right, we got to get this conversation out. And it's like, okay, it's, you know what it is? It's one of those things where I don't know if the viewer, or at least myself, really cared if they explained things. So it's like, I know you want to take the time and kind of sort of tie up a loose end, but I'm like, I don't know if it was that much of a loose end. I didn't really care.
And I don't think you can tie up a loose end with wild speculation. Like, it's not like they found a document or they met a person who knew the answers. It's them on a date wildly speculating.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing. It's just like, we, the viewers, never going to get any more explanation. So we're just, I guess we're just like, well, I guess that's what happened. But
Yeah.
because they could have just left it alone.
Yeah, I agree.
They return to the farm after their date, and they see Susie has lit a barrel on fire, and there's just big black smoke pluming out. Mm-hmm. But why has she lit this fire?
It's a smoke signal because she's seen a helicopter.
That's right. And who's on that helicopter?
Well, it's funny because it's Coker, but
he's back.
He's back. But you know what they refer to him as? Jack.
Oh, it's the first time Jack Coker.
Yeah, but only in this episode. Up to them it's Coker, but then they're just like Jack because they're like Jack, and I was like, his name's Jack.
Well, I loved it too because they pull up. He's there. Bill's so excited, and he's like, Joe, you got to meet this guy, my friend Jack Coker. And she's like, I believe she says, we met. I was his prisoner.
I know. That was such a funny because when he said you've got to meet her, or meet him, I thought the same thing. I'm like, yeah, she knows him. You guys were captured together, and then she just calls him, and I'm like, this is so odd. And again, I'm gonna say it. Bill might be stupid.
Bill might be stupid. I also like that in response to I met him, I was his prisoner. Coker turns to her and says, I'm afraid it's a little late for me to apologize. I was like, so no apology? You're not going to offer any apology?
No. Luke, it's a little late.
But he says that to her, gives a non-apology, and then she hugs him and says, great to see you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not. He imprisoned you.
It is because it's at least it's someone she knows.
At least I know this person.
Yeah.
She just kind of says, like, so nice to see another human being. I have to talk to this dummy all day.
He's giving more theories about the Russians.
He's just driving around. You know what else? The queen's a lizard.
Yeah. The dog, they should have a shot of the black lab, its eyes rolling. Oh, I think, is the lab dead at this point?
I mean,
you don't see it.
Other than the one time we saw it in the car, we've never seen it again.
Yeah, so it's died.
Oh, as we know, though, Triffids won't eat animals. They think of them as friends, like those wolves from your short story.
That's true.
Last week.
Yeah.
That was canon. He tells them how he kind of, last time we saw him, he was going to Tension, which we know has died of disease. He fled from there. He's ended up on the on White Island in, I believe he calls them the Channel Islands. I Googled it, and I believe they're now currently called the Isle of Scilly.
Oh, I don't know. Sure.
Which is just off the coast of the UK, the Britain, whatever that island, whatever their main island is. And he sort of started a community there. And in his time there, he has learned to fly by crashing 2 helicopters.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You know that's the best way to learn is to fail.
First you don't succeed.
Yeah.
He has also, starting his community on this island, wiped out 50,000 Triffids.
Yeah, he said 50,000. I was like, that's a lot. No, and he says they've killed 50,000, and then they also every season had to go back, essentially kill the seeds.
Every spring, Every spring you get up and you do a little Triffid call, and that's how you keep them off of this island.
But I like that's his pitch. He's like, doesn't that sound great? You guys should all come live with me.
Well, he has more to this pitch because he wants Bill to join him to lead a Triffid research team.
Yeah.
Because Bill's a biologist?
Yeah.
This whole time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it never was explicitly said at the beginning, and we did know that he was either
he did work at that farm.
He did work at a farm, and it was clearly more than just a farm. There was a lab, and there was
but he did seem pretty low level there.
Well, there was only 2 of them.
That is true. That is
so
true.
I mean,
but Walter seemed the leader. He seemed like he was the boss.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. But anyways, yeah, he really knows his Triffids.
This whole time he's been a biologist. That's why he knows they have no brains, and he's mad at everyone when they say they do.
Yeah.
But they basically want him to come and create the Triffid final solution.
They want to do like a real military wage the war on the Triffids.
Basically, yeah, they want some way of like finally removing them from this planet. Quick aside though, while you're deciding if you're going to come with us, he just wants you to know, FYI, we in our community, we're building the world in our own image, and if you don't like it, you can leave.
Yeah. So he says it in a funny way though. He's like, look, it's we got real big rules. You may look, I don't care if you like them or not. You can go. But he says it in such a passive, like, nice way of like, yeah. And he's like, lots of people have left.
And his implication is that the other islands around are now those groups have set up there, and like it's just like if you have some problems with some of our things, you can go to one of the other ones. You'll find a community that you enjoy.
Yeah,
we have lots of options here, and they're into it. They want to go to the island with him, but Joe wants to spend one last summer on the farm.
Yeah, and Bill agrees.
And Coker flies away in his helicopter. Wake up the next day. Bill and Susan, they're singing the Yellow Submarine.
Yep.
Susie, they're coming back from another raid. As they pull up to the farm,
military's there.
There's a tank. There's a full-fledged tank in their front yard.
And there's a funny thing about this, because we'll get into now why this is here stuff. Do you think the countryside is so detached from the rest of society? Because you get the sense that there's a huge separation between factions of people, but you must come across people like even if there's been a lot of disease and war and violence, it's still a heavily populated country, right? So like the fact that there could be a military with tank stuff operating and you would never know about it seems a little far-fetched.
I mean, I think the idea is like the population is so dwindled that you could, like, they say they haven't seen anyone. You're right. It seems unlikely in his driving around they wouldn't have bumped into them, because the militia basically says, we saw your black smoke yesterday, so we came to check.
Susie really blew it, by the way.
Well, you needed that helicopter.
Yeah,
you needed to get Coker back. If it wasn't for him, they would. What are they going to do? Wait for those Triffids to get past the fence again?
Yeah, that's true.
And this militia is working for a council that's working to reestablish society. What do we know about kind of their plan?
They are a military organization. I think they call themselves the Emergency Council is what they call themselves.
Yes, that is the code of their core council.
What they really are hoping for is how they're going to disperse resources. So that seemingly they have available bodies to be in the military and so forth. But what they basically want is that they're going, okay, it's the same idea we've seen before, which is you guys have a great property here, but you only have 2 blind people. And we've made new rules, which is every person that has sight has to take 20 blind people. So basically, you have 2 people here. We're giving you 40 blind people that you need to take care of. You guys are going to be pretty self-sufficient, but that's what's going to happen. And if you don't like it, we're the military.
They would need people to work the land now so that we can get resources going again. We're going to give you these blind people. You're going to teach them to work the land. It's going to be hard work, but once they know how to do it, you are going to essentially become a feudal lord.
Yeah.
You'll be on the top of the chain. You'll have all these peasants below you working your land. On top of that is the Emergency Council, who will be your king. Mm-hmm. And we're basically setting up a feudal system in this land. And unfortunately, another one of the things is we can't have this many sighted people on one farm. So we've got to take young Susie with us. We'll bring her back to the Emergency Council. We'll put her to work.
She's gonna have she could be her own feudal lord.
We'll find her own feudal lord for her. And they're like, well, she's kind of our daughter. And they're like, hey, man, tough beans. That's non-optional. So this is what's going to happen. Bill's like, all right, I'm a smart guy. I'm a real clever Bill. So why don't you spend the night here? Why don't you come, have dinner with my family? We'll get to know each other. Really looking forward to this feudal lord thing. Sounds great.
It's a stall tactic. I think it's one of the few good ideas Bill has.
Yeah, essentially he gets the militia drunk.
Yeah.
Until they pass out in his living room. And then he gathers up his whole little family, the blind people, the children. He loads them into his car.
But he does something before that.
That's true. He needs to do something to stop the militia.
Bill seemingly has beehives because what he has is jars of honey.
Yes.
And he takes the jars of honey and essentially gunks up the works of the tank and the cars.
I believe he pours it into their fuel.
Yeah. So he does that. And then yes, they all quietly in the middle of the night get into the car and they start driving away, and the military guys hear them, but
their cars won't work.
So
Bill flips off the electric fence, opens the gates, drives
scene.
away.
Something I know you were hoping to see.
The electric fence?
No, that they slow down, see a Triffid, then hit it and drive over
That's true. They finally run over a Triffid. I was very
Yeah.
happy about that. I also like that they just left. There's now you got these Triffids to deal with. Militia, suck on that.
Yeah.
But as they drive away, they stop and they look back at their home they've lived for the last 6 years, and we get one final triumphant monologue from Bill about one day they'll return and they'll drive the Triffids from England. The end.
It was a bit of an odd ending and a little bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're just supposed to be like, they're gonna go live with Cooker, they're gonna restart society, they're safe and sound now. It was just odd because they had that option, they pushed pause on it to show us one other like weird post-apocalyptic society thing, and then
also I don't know if they needed to jump 6 years ahead to do this. Like, did it matter? Like, the time was all messed up in the show anyway.
I mean, here's the thing. I think it was the right thing to do, as we saw in the last episodes. Like, having a day go by and then like the world's now 4 months worse off. That wasn't working. So at least jumping 6 years ahead, we could buy into a lot more.
But you know what? It could be interesting though. The first episode could be in a year later. Next episode's 2 years later. Then 3 years later. So by the time you've got there and you could see the development, like it just seemed like an interesting idea that was thrown together at the end. That I don't know if it entirely works, just because they didn't set you up for it.
Well, and I read something somewhere that just refers to this last episode as more of a coda. Like the final episode was last episode, and this is just kind of like an epilogue to the show kind of thing, which does kind of hold up as an idea because it's just like there's not really a climax. Just you kind of see how they've survived. Like they finally got back together with Joe. They start this time on the farm, and now we're just seeing this epilogue of 6 years later. They've done it. They've survived. They've made it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's just kind of like, it's weird for your last episode to be kind of anticlimactic. It's like 2 more glimpses of possible societies, and they're like, all right.
But before we get into the rating stuff, I mean, they were hoping this was going to be a TV show. I mean, this was a miniseries.
Do you think so?
I think the idea was that at the very least there'd be more miniseries. I think so.
I'm not sure. Because I read there's a booklet that came with the DVDs, and I read through it, and it's interesting. They made a version of this. I mean, was, as we've learned, insanely popular. Like the book got written, very popular. The BBC,
there's a lot of radio shows.
I can't remember. Yeah, they made a ton of radio show versions of it for a while. They really wanted to make a movie out of it. The movie ended up passing along to some other company, and in 1962 they kind of made a bastardized version of it that's not well liked, and they had a lot of reshoots, and like it just didn't come together. And so it finally ended up in the BBC's hands. And it does seem to me this is meant to be a standalone one-off. Like this was supposed to be just this little mini-series. And like the people who worked on it tried really hard to capture the exact things of the novel. And like I think these are all characters from it. And they like hired people, the producers involved. Like everyone was very meticulous about it. But I'm pretty sure it was never meant to be more than what it is. Which is funny because, it could be. It could be more than what it is.
I agree.
It could have kept going. 100%. I think as you can see, they needed to commit to either time moves slowly or time moves quickly. And because I think they're just like, oh, we're just doing 6 episodes. They there's jump 6 years. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But I'm not sure it was ever meant to be more than what it is.
So what do you think now, our last 2 episodes? Do you want to rate these?
Sure. What do you think? What do you think of part 5?
I'm going to say something. I think you might disagree with me. Weirdly, this was my least favorite of the episodes.
Really?
And I don't exactly know why. I just thought I think maybe in the series of all 6 episodes, it felt like we were running out of time, and I felt almost like it was a filler episode, even though I know it's not really. It just feels like we got to a certain point, and then they went, all right, we're kind of done with ideas. And then the last episode was like a wrap it together idea. And I just, for whatever reason, it was my least favorite. So I'm only going to, not that much different, but I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't feel exactly the same. I mean, I will admit not a ton perhaps happened in the episode. I mean, I think that maybe could be argued for a few other ones too. I felt like this, what I was happy about this one is I was happy to finally leave the city in this one.
That's true.
It was a lot of driving sequences, a lot of montage, and not a lot happened as a result. But for me, it was more of the atmosphere of desolation. Like this was them finally like showing you the extent of the desolation.
Right.
And I think you're right. As a result, it ended up being a very slow episode with nothing happening. But I was okay. I was okay with it, and I might actually go up to a 7 on it.
Okay. And what do you think about the last episode?
You know what? 6 years later, you're not wrong. It's a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
I won't lie though. When I tuned in and it started with 6 years later, I was happy. I was like, great.
I agree. I was like, I can't believe they're doing it. But then I thought, oh great, this will be. Well, at least we'll have moved the story. Especially for me, after the 5th episode, I felt like we were running out of time and it was a bit of a stutter stop. I was like, sure, let's do 6. I'm game. 6 years later.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already talked about it. It just ends up being a lot of theorizing and exposition, and like we see Coker again. We kind of basically get it. But nonetheless, I love seeing all the Triffids. It's not a good episode, but it had more of the fun of those first episodes I liked. I'm going to stick with this one. I'm going to actually move it up to 7.5, I think. I'm going to go up just a tiny bit on it.
I'm not too far behind you. I'm going to give it a 7. I like the idea, and I agree. It felt like one of the first few episodes that we were getting back to it. I just think we maybe just still kind of wasted more time than I think they could have had a little bit more fun in it.
And I mean, a lot of the, satellites, like you could have seeded this through the entire it just became a thing where it's like, give us a bunch of exposition. Is it clumsily done? Absolutely. But are the puppetry still there? Like the killing Triffids, the flamethrowers, we won. Like a lot more of the fun elements at least were evidenced in this one.
No, most importantly, we've gone through this show. It's got a pretty high average. I don't know. Do you want to punch into the computer?
Yeah, I'll punch it all into the computer and we'll see where we're falling on Day of the Triffids. All right, Jordan. I punched the numbers into the Continuum Drag computer. The final series average for the Day of the Triffids.
I can guess.
What is it?
7.27.
It is 6.64.
Oh, it's lower than I thought.
Those middle two episodes really
hurt us.
Give a little bit of a punch. A little punch to the gut.
No. Here's the more importantly. Sometimes the scores don't tell the whole story. It sounds funny. Would you recommend this?
You know what? I would absolutely recommend.
Me too.
I think that it's without question. This was a ton of fun.
I agree.
I enjoyed every little bit of it, and some of it doesn't work. Some of it's a little distasteful occasionally, but it's easy to just like look past it and have a good time.
There's very little, like a lot of these shows that we've seen, you almost have to excuse stuff because of the time period, and obviously the special effects and graphics and whatever it is, puppetry may not be the best, but there's not a lot of things you have to forgive. The main character is not a kind of sexist boob.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's very polite. It's a very polite British show. So even the distasteful ideas are presented with a very like, well, only if you want to,
though. Right. Anyways, I enjoyed it too. I had a really good time. It flew by.
I mean, it helps. 25-minute episodes. Oof, they fly by.
Yeah, I'm gonna read the book. After I was like, well, I got to read the book now. I really enjoyed this.
You know what? I also was like considering that. I was also thinking, I'm like, maybe I should just read one of his other books.
Book club.
Oh, that's our spinoff.
Yeah,
reading David Triffids.
But it's just us on the microphones, but we're just
flipping
both
pages,
reading. Yeah,
licking our fingers.
Yeah, and then eventually we're like,
Oh.
It's very
bad
experiment. Yeah, I was gonna say experimental, but yes, bad.
All right. Well, Jordan, and that wraps up for Day of the Triffids. You can email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com if you have any final thoughts on Triffids for us. I think we talk about Triffids for the rest of our lives. If you
I would too. Yeah.
A good time. On Instagram and Twitter at continuumdrag, we're going to have cool images for sure. Thousands of Triffids surrounding a fence. Really, it's more like 7, but they say it's 1,000.
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff
There's
on there.
fun stuff
There's
in
fun
there.
stuff all over.
We won.
A helicopter.
Yeah.
Black smoke. Oh, we won. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
burned on things. Absolutely. But you can look forward to that on the social media channels of whatever those are. And listener, thank you so much for joining us on our trip to the Triffid days of the Triffid.
Yeah, in the 80s. And we'll be on something new next week.
That's right. We're going to move on to something new next week. And until then, Jordan, good recording with you.
We'll see you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.